All right, so this is a video to kind of deal with the whole discussion about gamma. Let's focus on gamma types and duality, relationships, how these types kind of get along with each other. Really, I'm focusing mostly on the ILI and the SEE because it's usually ILIs that ask for this kind of stuff, and usually for obvious reasons. Okay, so pretty much those two. Let's kind of quickly dive into it, just kind of riff through some things. This is more of a discussion, dialogue kind of thing. There's a lot of different ways you can go with this. People have different experiences, different viewpoints, which I like hearing. I don't believe that a theoretical model has the answer to everything. So this is meant to be more like an interactive kind of thing. All right, whatever. So let's just touch on the basic stuff. What does an ILI do and do well that they can offer to the SEE, their dual? And what does the SEE have that they can offer the ILI? ILIs in general, NITE. They typically are much better at figuring out what is the long-term path, what is the thing that's going to give us the most bang for our buck that we really should pay attention to. This is the focus, even if it takes a long time to get there or a certain amount of time to get there. This is what will have better yield and better return. And TE, this is the best way to do it. This is how we can get all the pieces together and make it happen, make it work the way we want it to work. And then stay the course. That's what they offer. That's what they can do that the SE usually struggles with, particularly early in life. I'll get to the development part later. What do the SEE types do better? Well, SEFI. They're much better at being very active, going after it, not sitting around waiting, thinking about stuff. They get moving. Very physical, very dynamic types of people who are better with people, period. They're much better at the social game. They're much better at getting along with people, finding the right kinds of people, making good connections, and maintaining and keeping those connections. Better at being socially charming, fun, outgoing, etc. And when needed, a lot better at pushing away people you don't want, people who get in the way, people who are a problem, whatever. Much more asserting themselves. And this is how you get the duality, and they're going to balance each other out. Now, issues from the ILI side. Okay, I hear the ILIs often talking about things like, oh, I don't know where to find SEEs, where are these people? Or I don't like them. Whenever I do encounter them, they look stupid and silly to me. Well, let's get some obvious things out of the way. ILIs are known to be extremely introverted. They're obviously one of the most introverted types in the entire 16 types out there, right? When at an extreme, they can be very reclusive, schizoid types of people. When not at the extreme, they're types that do get out and they do their thing. They have a few little routines and they go out and they meet certain people and they can be somewhat sociable. This is going to vary depending on the individual person and their particular situation and lifestyle and whatever. Okay, but in general, they are a very introverted type. So you guys got to get out more. You don't want to hear that, but you kind of have to get out more. That could be a problem for some. In other areas, you may be seeing people who are SEEs but not realizing it. For different reasons. Either because you think maybe they're not an SEE and they are in fact, you think that they're an ESE, like alpha type or something like that. Or you think they're an EIE or whatever, you're mistyping them for something else. That could be a problem. Another problem is this. I'm going to refer to Mark Cuban. SEEs do unfortunately get that reputation of being really like these socialite morons at times, which is wrong. There are plenty of examples of that. Okay, don't mistake that. There are very many SEEs that are just going to do the social stuff. Yes, they're out there, but you can find many SEs too that are very much into the pragmatic side of things, or they develop it. Okay, remember, development in socionics is big. People forget this. They sleep on it all the time. They think whatever I'm looking at right now is what it is. This is what this person has always been and what they're going to be. No. Development. SEEs develop the TE component. It starts off slowly at some stage of their life, in their teens, whatever, 20s, and they build momentum on this. Depending on how it builds and which SEE you're dealing with, whatever, you can run into types that look like Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban, by many in Socionics, is seen as an SEE. He is so successful as a billionaire that people will mistype him and think he's an NTJ of some sort, that he is an ILI, or that he is an LIE, because people can't get it out of their head that, oh, a billionaire business guy, or he must be an NTJ, because that's what NTJs are. It's like bullshit. No, they're not. I do have a video discussing Mark Cuban, typing him and being a little bit more in depth. Go check that out. I'll probably link it on here so you could watch the video, and and you could see him live talking in a conversation. You can see how charming he is. You can see how very social, very engaged, very quick that he is. You'll hear him talking about himself when he was younger and how kind of opportunistic he was, finding a car on the side of the road that he just saw it there, quickly realized, oh, this is a car somebody ditched because they couldn't make the payments. And he sees, no bills, like notice of, whatever bank bills, and he realized, oh, okay. And he calls the bank and he tells them, hey, I'm going to take over payments on this car. And that's how he got himself a car. Cheap, right? Very opportunistic, seeing an opportunity right there on the side of the road, and he literally takes it, boom, he does this. And he does this a lot. That was a story of him back when he was like 17 or something like that, 18, 17, whatever. Very young. He talks about wanting to go shot for shot with his basketball players, elite athletes. And he's still trying to keep up with them, even though he's like 60 years old. Playing sports, doing things, very physical, very assertive, very opportunistic, but always also very business minded. How could I make money? How could I, do this or do that? What business schooling actually matters in making money and achieving objectives? And what's all the crap that is irrelevant schooling, irrelevant information? You see him talk about this. You see him having a lot of this when he's young. So I find it laughable when some people look at Mark Cuban and they think he's an ILI when he is so blatantly obvious an extroverted type, for starters, But again, people think in their head, oh, this guy is just, he's so sharp, concrete, money-making business, he must be an NTJ. Wrong. So why am I going into all this? The point is, don't let SEs fool you. You can run into a lot of SEs that are extremely pragmatic, successful, intelligent types that are out to get things done. And they're very assertive and capable people. What they will appreciate is for you as an ILI or an LIE to provide them technical knowledge on things. Explain to them, this is how it works. This is why it's going to work. This is what you could do as some opportunities. Maybe you ought to consider this, and this might help your little business scheme out better and make more money. If they see that you know your stuff, you know what you're talking about, you have some good knowledge on how to go about doing things in a better way, they'll jump on that, right? And they greatly appreciate loyalty, directness, honesty. You're loyal, you're genuine, you're authentic to who you are, and you demonstrate that to them, they're going to love that. That's what they care about. So SEs, they're out there. They're all over the place, often trying to make moves, often trying to do stuff. I've known SEs, many of them. When I stop and think about it, I'm like, how many people? I've known a variety of them. Right off the top of my head, I can think of about at least 4 people I know well, at varying levels of conventional success. I'm going to call it conventional, whatever. Even to the point of people who are doctors, who've been doctors, or been, physician assistants and stuff like that. That's a lot of education and schooling. That's a lot of stuff you got to do. And they're SEs. doing all the things you expect SEs to be good at and do. So there's quite a variety of them out there. You can really run into them. I kind of almost want to say that one of the issues for really the ILI side of the house is probably, I think it's more on you guys. You know, correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong. But I feel like it's kind of more on you guys. Tend to be more reclusive and more keep to yourself, maybe too much of a wallflower, and not putting yourself out there or not letting your intentions be known enough so that the SEs notice you. Bear in mind that ILIs typically have problems with flat affect or just not express themselves emotionally enough. So you may think in your mind that you're doing enough, and you're not. You're not really expressing yourself and your interest in that person or in these people enough. That could be an issue. Let's see, where else did I want to go? Okay, other things to get into is like, there's a duality, right? SEE, ILI, okay, fine. But you can get along quite well with anybody within the gammas. Remember that. It doesn't have to be a dual type. So ILI, you can do quite well with ESI. Maybe you meet an ESI, and that works out quite well for you. Okay. They're still going to provide a lot of the same things that an SEE can do. Yes, it's not the same because they're not an SE dom, or extroverted, but maybe that's more your style. Maybe you like somebody that's a little bit more ESI, a little bit more low key, a little bit more, that might be better. They're still going to provide a lot of the social skills that ILI doesn't really normally do well in. Maybe as an ILI, you can match up well with an LIE, because the LIE is more of an extroverted type at the end of the day. So they're going to be a little bit better at the social game. And they have a little bit more of the SE going on. Particularly when you, depends on the age, depends on the development, and so on, things like that. We're back to development talk. LIEs develop the SE as time goes on, depending on, again, age, experience, whatever. That rate of development can go up. So there's a lot of times when you will encounter LIEs that look like SEEs a bit. There are times when you will encounter SEEs that look like LIEs a bit. Case in point, Mark Cuban that we talked about, right? Why is this? Because of the development. Okay, LIEs start off as nerdy types, these more intellectual, know how things work, care about just the understanding of how things work and how to implement them and how to use them, and they like to talk about that, and they read these books and watch things, whatever. That's more their thing when they're younger, but as they get older, they bring in the SE, they become more assertive, they become more confident in their knowledge, confident in their ability to move forward, and now they become more of that classic take charge kind of person. They start looking like an SEE. For some ILIs, that might be good enough for you, right? That works. I mentioned already before, Mark Cuban and other SEEs, they developed a TE. They start becoming much more technical and more competent at how things are working and how things are getting along and where they're going to go. They start looking like an LIE now. Bottom line, it's just extroverted gammas can start to merge. So for the ILIs, keep that in mind. You don't have to focus on the SEEs. I'm trying to think of some other people I'd like to show, like real life people. I know theory is one thing, and we could all talk about analyzing the structure with Socionics, blah, blah, blah. We can do that, but I don't think that's a substitute for seeing actual people, actual real life examples of them, and going, look, see, this is what we mean by this. This is what we're talking about, right? I already mentioned Mark Cuban. Check out the videos, look into him, etc. There's a few other characters, SEE types, that are out there. It might be your thing. It might not be. I know that World Socionics Society they tend to think of is it Tony Robbins, I think is his name, right? The big self-help guru guy. They think of him as an SEE, which I've seen their argument. It's like, it's pretty good. He might be. He might be. I haven't really looked into it that much myself, so I don't want to, but whatever. That's a go-getter, right? High energy, no doubt about it. There's that guy. They got a few other characters too. Unfortunately, there's that other guy from InfoWars. That moron, unfortunately, not. It's not sure that's a great example. Other people online on YouTube that have channels. Somebody I would recommend out there. You have Aimee Y. It's her channel. You could watch some of her videos, watch how she talks about things, and kind of get a feel for her vibe, her type. There are interviews that you could watch too. Jack has some interviews on his channel of SEEs. You can get a feel for kind of how some of them look. And I guess we'll kind of have to get back on different people. I can think of like Punisher. To me, is a Gamma SF to me. Probably SEE. I'm not sure whether that's your jam or not. But you can think of different characters. And these are all different little archetypes, different kinds of people that you could see. Another popular character like that, Doctor Strange, I would say is probably a pretty darn good example of an LIE. Yes, these are comic books. Yes, they're superheroes. Yes, some people can't stand trying to type these characters. Whatever. I just think it's a visual for you to look at. So, whatever. These are some people some ideas, some examples of people to look at and get a vibe. Like I said. An ESI, in my opinion, would be The Last of Us. Joel. It's a male ESI at work there. So whatever. Apart from this, like I said, this is kind of more of a running dialogue, commentary, whatever. I know I'm going to get a lot of comments, good, bad, and the ugly, whatever. But put some comments in there, some more specific questions that you're trying to get at. Whether I answered a question or didn't answer something you were thinking about, or you wanted something else addressed. I don't, whatever. It's like whatever direction you want to go. I do prefer to make this, again, more of a running dialogue, interaction, whatever, on where you want this to kind of get at more specifically. So I guess for now we'll kind of leave it at that. Maybe if people really want, can make another part to this where it focuses more just on Socionics theory, if that's what you want to do, and just sort of match up the different elements at work and so on. There's that direction too. So I'll kind of wait to hear more from the feedback. All right, so on to the next thing. I look forward to hearing you guys.